Good day everyone, on this fine June summer's afternoon. Let's have a little chat. This is my Mark 7.5 Volkswagen Golf GTI, and I have had it for one whole year already. I know, fast year. Starting off, I've decided just to kind of go through a year in review and how my overall opinion is of the Mark 7.5 GTI, or Mark 7 GTI if you want to include the before the midlife facelift version, which I think you should, as they're practically on the same level. So for starters, let's just get right into how I bought this car. I bought this car last summer after saving up enough money, and as my old car was beginning to have issues, I wanted to be able to get something that was sporty but practical and fun as well. And enter the Golf GTI. Some might call this the Mazda Miatas of the hot hatches, because they're just the answer. They're incredible cars, and they're known as being legendary by great names all around the world. Jeremy Clarkson had one. If it's good for him, it must be good for me, right? Well, yeah. After I owned this car for one whole year, I can honestly say I do not regret buying it. In fact, I've recommended a friend of mine to buy one. They are absolutely fantastic. So let's start off with the things I love about it. I think this is one of the most beautiful hot hatches ever made. I've recently just been back from a shoot from the incredibly talented AR Media. His TikTok and Instagram will be in the description below, so please give him a follow. And we both agreed the car was breathtaking. In this rare enough Atlantic blue, I think it is a fantastic combination. 3 doors, 6-speed manual, as God intended. It's just such a great platform. The E8 888 was able to, in its third generation, was able to just be the turbo 4-cylinder it was destined to be. It was reliable. The oil filter is a piece of cake to change. It was easy to modify, and it was quite good on fuel. And when Volkswagen weren't fibbing their way through diesel regulations, the emission regulations on these were very good. To think that it was almost on par with like a kind of an entry-level petrol-powered car from about 5 to 6 years earlier, and considering the power you get and the incredible performance in Ireland, where your road tax is done on the vehicle emissions, like, it was kind of unheard of at the time. Now, moving on to my next point, this car is still a Golf at heart, so it kept all of the golfness, which to some people that's a bad thing, but tell me, why is that a bad thing? It's practical, it's comfortable, it's reliable, and it feels good to drive. What's wrong with that? Just everything with the GTI has been put up to 11 with 0 compromises. Whereas, if you compare a fantastic car, I may add, a Mitsubishi Evo, it's not as practical as a base Lancer, it's not as comfortable, it's definitely not as good on fuel. Would you have one over a normal Lancer? Obviously. Those cars would be a lot more difficult to live with. Whereas with the GTI, it's like any other normal car. I can honestly say now, despite my bank account having a slight breakdown once a week when I go to fill up, I can honestly tell you guys, it's worth every single penny. I have taken this car to places that I wouldn't have taken my old car. I went to Cars and Coffee. I've met amazing people. You guys all know who you are. And I've had lovely adventures in this amazing little car. In the year that I've owned it, I can honestly say it is one of the best purchases I've ever made. A lot of hot hatches these days are so serious. This is a bit fun. Like, it's kept the classic hot hatchback recipe, and it's just a joy to drive. The seats are some of the best seats I've ever sat in. They're all like bucket seats essentially. And they got frickin' tartan on them. It looks like a proud Scotsman's dream in here. Now, after a year, most people might admit they've got bored of these, or they might be tired or want to move on. Not this guy. I absolutely adore this thing. And it did bring me back to potentially the age-old question that I asked myself in my very first video I did of the GTI. Is the Golf GTI the perfect car for Ireland? If you want a sports car that is also practical, comfortable, and relatively fuel efficient, take a look at the Volkswagen Golf GTI Mark 7 and Mark 7.5. Stage 1 tune, 300 horsepower. Take it easy, 42 mpg. It's comfortable, it's reliable, I haven't had any issues yet. It sounds alright, although I admit I wish there's a little bit of noise. I might address that issue. But on a normal standard day to day, it's fantastic. It really does tick all the boxes. And you could argue that in this sort of case, if you're a car enthusiast, the Golf GTI might be the perfect car for you. So, that ends that question. I do think the GTI is one of the most perfect sports cars you can buy in Ireland. So that brings us on to the next question. What's next for the GTI? Well, if you haven't followed her on Instagram already, GT the Golf GTI, her name is actually on the side of the car now. But I will say this, I have no real plans for it yet, other than just more and more adventurous. Going around with friends and going to different car shows and all of that, as this is the season for car things. That being said, I think an exhaust would be nice. To summarise, the GTI, from the whole year I've owned it, the downsides go, probably isn't as fun to drive as its rivals. Some people argue that they're a bit expensive compared to rivals as well. However, the positives, decent on fuel for what it is, not too much to tax and insure, fast as hell, more than enough power on a day-to-day, so much potential for modifications, and it is still a fantastic car to drive. So should you buy one? Yes, absolutely. The pros certainly outweigh the cons. I have zero regrets about buying mine. I think it is just fabulous on so many different levels. So with that in mind, thanks a million to you all for watching this video, and I hope to see you all again soon.